I woke up in the hospital 2 weeks ago. Everyone seems off. Bear with me. I know this sounds crazy. 2 weeks ago, I woke up in a hospital bed. They told me I was in a car accident. I don't remember the crash, just a blinding flash of light. Since being discharged, things have felt wrong. Not just slightly off, deeply off. Like the world is wearing a mask and I'm the only one who can see the seams. Little things were off at first, easy to dismiss. But today, something happened. Something I can't explain. And now I know for sure, whatever this is, it isn't just in my head. This is real. And I'm scared as fuck. At first, nothing seemed too weird. I'd never spent a night in a hospital before, so waking up in a sterile, fluorescent-lit room was bound to feel unsettling. I brushed it off. My parents were more doting than usual, but for people whose son had almost died, they took it surprisingly well. At least, until we got to the car. That's when the concern cracked, and the disappointment seeped through. They scolded me for wrecking my 2003 Saturn shipbox, calling me reckless. The words sounded right, worried, even empathetic, but something was off. My mom's face kept shifting, like she couldn't settle on how she was supposed to feel. My dad, though? He barely moved. He sat rigid, staring straight ahead, as if turning his head wasn't an option. But I could feel him watching me. His gaze lingered in the rearview mirror, heavy and cold. Each time I glanced up, I'd catch his eyes for just a split second before he snapped them back to the road. But I knew he never really looked away. After the sixth time, I stopped looking away, too. The mirror became a silent one-way standoff as I waited for him to scold me through it again. He didn't so much as glance at it for the rest of the drive. It was a short drive. None of this was cause for concern, really. Nothing that followed was all that crazy. But when we got home, I felt a shift. Coming from the harsh fluorescence of the hospital and the golden stretch of road outside, I wasn't prepared for the cool dimness of the house. It wasn't dark, exactly. Mom always kept the shades open. She liked the light. But now, they weren't quite shut, just not open enough. Like someone had hesitated halfway and left them there. My family didn't linger. After some pleasantries, Mom disappeared into the master bedroom, Dad went back to work, and I was left alone on the living room couch. I popped a Tylenol, took a few hits from my pen in the bathroom, and settled in. The rest of the day was mostly silent, aside from the occasional sound of Mom's bedroom door opening and closing. I wasted time scrolling on my phone, barely aware of the shifting sunlight until a beam stretched across the room and hit my eyes. I turned from my pillow to the armrest, bought myself another 20 minutes. Then another beam crept up, warming my feet like some kind of passive-aggressive warning from the sun. All right, message received. I sighed, peeled myself off the couch, and mumbled, "Fuck it, you win," before dragging myself to my room. I was asleep before I could think too much about it. The week that followed was unusual, to say the least. It was summer break, and normally I'd be stocking shelves at Walmart or messing around with my friends. But doctor's orders were pretty straightforward. You've got a concussion, don't be an idiot. No standing for long periods, no heavy lifting, no unnecessary risks. Fine by me. I got a doctor's note, a couple of weeks off, and a temporary escape from the joys of minimum wage labor. It wasn't the end of the world. Part-time jobs come and go. For now, I just had some headaches and a free pass to lay low. Better that than risking something worse, whether it was from dreading work or from one of my friends intentionally checking a basketball into my skull because we're over-competitive degenerates. I didn't really care to go outside much. The weather hadn't been as sunny as the first day I got back. Clouds hung low, thick and unmoving, like they were pressing down on the neighborhood. Even when the sun did break through, it was this weak, watery light that barely seemed to touch the ground. It just made staying inside feel more justified. So I did. I moved the Xbox from the basement to my room. Normally, that would have been a no-go, but if anyone asked, I'd just plead the concussion card and call it a win. No one even commented on it, which felt strange. Like they should have, but didn't. I just holed up, gaming, eating, zoning out in front of Skyrim lore videos in the living room, whatever. Aside from family dinners, I didn't talk to my parents much. The conversations at the table were dull, barely conversations at all. Dad was working later than usual, often slipping away right after eating. Mom was around. I knew that much. I heard her. The bedroom doors opening and closing. The creak of the floorboards when she walked. The soft SHHF of her feet brushing across the carpet upstairs. But I barely saw her. Not in the kitchen, not in the living room, not even when I grabbed snacks at night. Come to think of it, I don't think I ever saw her downstairs. Aside from dinner. Some groceries spoiled, which was weird because Mom was normally on top of that kind of thing. When I pointed it out, she took me shopping, which was actually kind of nice. I got way more say in what we stocked the fridge with than usual. That was a win. But as we wandered the aisles, I noticed something. People were staring at me, not in a casual, passing way intensely. Like they were trying to memorize my face, or maybe like they weren't sure what they were looking at. Each time I caught someone, they snapped their head away like they hadn't been watching at all. But the feeling stayed. Not a single person looked like they could hold a normal expression on their faces. It was like they shifted through raw emotions during the most mundane tasks. I began to feel in danger. And worse, I started to notice something else. As Mom and I passed people, I swore I could hear them pivot to watch me after we walked by. I never actually saw it happen, but I could hear it. The soft squeak of a shoe turning, the faint rustle of fabric shifting. I wanted to ask Mom if she noticed anything, but the words stuck in my throat. If she hadn't, I'd sound crazy. If she had, I didn't want to know. I tried to shrug it off. I'd been a complete goblin for the past week, barely keeping up with shaving, and yeah, my facial hair was patchy as hell. Maybe I just looked like a mess. Maybe I was imagining things. Whatever. When I got back home, I hopped on Xbox, made plans with some friends for later in the week, and told myself I'd get cleaned up by then. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. 2 days passed. Nothing noteworthy, just my growing awareness of how off everything felt. Mom was moving around more. At least, I think she was. I'd hear her footsteps, soft shuffling noises that always seemed to stop right outside my door. The first few times, I brushed it off. Maybe she was just passing by. Maybe she was listening for signs that I was awake. But the more I paid attention, the more it felt deliberate. The house was dim, sure, but my room wasn't. I kept my bay window shades open, letting in just enough light to make it feel normal, or at least less like the rest of the house. The hallway outside, though, it was always in shadow. There was only one time of day where light from the high windows in the living room even touched my door, and it wasn't now. That's why I knew I shouldn't have seen anything. And yet, I did. I heard her. That same soft shuffle. I glanced over from the edge of my bed, half expecting nothing, just another trick of my nerves. But for a split second, I saw them. Her toenails. Just at the edge of the door. The instant I registered them, they shot back too fast. So fast it was like they hadn't been there at all. But I knew what I saw. The carpet where they had been left the faintest depression before slowly rising back into place. My stomach twisted. Okay, that was it. No more dab pen. No more convincing myself I wasn't tripping out when clearly I was seeing shit. I waited, listened, heard her shuffle away. Her door clicked shut. I exhaled, rubbed my face, and stood up. Enough of this. I needed to get out of the house. Needed to see my friends, James, Nikki D, and Tyler. The goal was simple. Sober up, ground myself, and maybe, just maybe, bring up what was going on. Over Xbox, they'd all sounded completely normal. I'd only mentioned a few things in passing, nothing that set off any alarms for them. Most of our talks had just been about girls from our school, memes, and bullshitting in Rainbow Six Siege lobbies. Maybe I was just overthinking. Maybe everything was fine. But as I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that, somewhere upstairs, Mother was listening. Obviously, driving wasn't an option. My car was totaled. My parents handed me $250 for the scrap it was apparently worth, and that was that. So, I dusted off my old bike from the shed in the back. I didn't even glance at the house on my way out. Didn't need to see my creepy-ass mom peeking from some upstairs window like a horror movie extra. If I did, I'd probably swerve straight into traffic just to avoid dealing with it. Instead, I shoved the thoughts down and let myself believe for just a little longer that I was just tripping balls. That was safer. That was better. Besides, my odds were good. I still had headaches. I was still a little stoned. I was still taking Tylenol. Put it all together, and maybe my brain was just running like a laggy Xbox. I rode up to the high school football field in about 20 minutes and hopped the fence. Everyone was already there, James, Nikki D, and Tyler. And what followed? It was awesome. The dap-ups were a little stiff at first, but once we got going, everything fell into place.